Hey guys, it's Warwick from Casual Chess, back for another 5-minute game today. Looks like I'm playing white against an opponent from the United States, and we'll start with d4. My opponent plays e5, and we're going to decline the England Gambit. Don't know how to play this, so I'm just going to try and catch my opponent off guard, get him on the back foot, and we'll see what happens from there. So, okay. Reasonable centre control here. My opponent's trying to take on that d5 square, potentially undermining my strongly advanced pawn there on d5. We'll see how this all goes. Now, tempted to make a move like bg5, although after bg5, if my opponent takes the knight on, takes with his knight on d5, I can't retake the bishop simply because he will retake with his knight again, moving that out of range for me, and I will lose a pawn for that. So we will simply play Nf3. He advances his bishop. I'll play my bishop as well, and now we'll castle. Okay. I'd really like to trade off my opponent's bishop on g4. I don't like that position at the moment. Okay. Pretty much to be expected. I think I may have made a slight error there. Possibly would have been better for me, better for my opponent to take on e4. Not sure. Taking on e4 would have, maybe been better, but we'll explore that in the analysis. Okay. Be3, we'll keep going. My opponent plays a6, probably looking to play b5, so we'll play a4. Play b4, and we'll maybe even look to play b5 ourselves. At the moment I'm thinking this game is pretty even. Move 14, so we'll see later whether or not move 14 is equal in fact. We've traded a bishop for a bishop. No big deal. We'll take c takes b5. I'll take there with the queen, advance her up the board a little bit. Now what I'd really like to do is protect that pawn currently on e4 in a different way. Perhaps moving my rook to the e1 square and then redirecting the bishop, meaning it's defended by something other than the knight. Okay. This may be an opportunity to do just that. We'll drop that bishop back there to bd2, defending the knight on c3, simultaneously still defending on e4. And now after nc5 we have rook e1. Still holding down that e4 square at the moment. I'm going to play Nh4 and hopefully redirect at least one of my pieces towards a square like f5. Must admit I don't quite understand the purpose of this, but we will take nonetheless on b6. And we'll play a5 now, dealing with the bishop currently on the b6 square. Doing okay for time here. We are 22 moves in and 2 minutes left on the clock. Plenty of pieces off the board and we're still remaining equal, so I'll play Nf5 now. Okay, I'd really like to get the knight currently on c5 off the board. So let's look to do that. Obviously there is a risk of knight to b3, but after knight to b3 we can simply play rook to e2. Sorry, rook to a2 would be better. We'll take there on c5, that's good. Quite happy with that move. Alrighty. Bc3, I think. Bc3 blocks the pawn from advancing down the board. Also targets the pawn on e4, so e5 rather. I'll defend the pawn on e4 with f3. No trouble here at the moment. Ne3. Looking to redirect that knight to c4 and target the e5 square again. Double attack on there with the bishop as well. There's a way for him to defend that, certainly, but it's a good position I think to have that knight on the c4 square, and my fairly advanced a5 pawn is going to protect the b pawn from coming down and kicking me off that square. He's seen that. We'll use that opportunity to take on Bexf. And it looks like we may win a pawn there. So, should we move n to c4? Probably not, actually. I think what we'll do is... Yep, we'll take on b takes e5. Take again. Minimally concerned about this at the moment. I'll simply get my king out of the way. And I can see he's taken on rook takes e3. Sorry, b takes e3, rook takes e3 in return. None of this representing any major problem at the moment. Now I'm creating an escape square on h3. We'll play rook a8. Rook a8 actually threatens on a1, h1. Okay, going to advance up the board now. Still threatening. Running out of time here though, this could be a risk for me. Six seconds to go. Okay. Bit hard to commentate there at the end, running out of time. Unfortunately we lost that game. As you can see, there were some good moves that we made. For example, I believe this take with the bishop on b takes f6 was probably good. It removed the bishop from the way of the rook here, so that rook on e3 can take on b3. I was expecting something like this to take place, and as you can see, there's going to be no way for my opponent to defend. Oh, pardon me, there actually is. I was going to suggest I could sling down to b3, but my opponent can simply play that move there. However, the question would be, is he able to advance down the board quick enough, or could I potentially lock him into a checkmate by using my king over here? We'll see what the analysis says. I'll be back with that in a moment. Bit of a shame that we lost that game, but I think we probably did play a little bit better. Alright, we'll see back in a sec. Okay guys, we're back with the analysis now, and unfortunately, yes, we were in the lead at a certain point. I don't see any mates, but we definitely had the advantage by as many as 16, especially at the end there. Whew, a bit tragic. I don't like throwing away a game like that, and as you can see in the top right hand corner, 49 accuracy for me, 22.5 for my opponent. We really should have been able to convert that. Quite a long time where we were really in the lead by at least 6 or 7, and we just couldn't convert. Plenty of blunders from both of us. 3 for my opponent, 2 for me. 2 mistakes from my opponent, 3 for me. 9 inaccuracies for both of us. So as you can see, that wasn't a particularly accurate game. I felt we did okay in the opening, but let's see this. So my opponent begins with the England Gambit, and not knowing how to play this, I've declined the move. Not ideal. I probably could have taken advantage of that, but nonetheless, we carry on. Pretty reasonable development here, and it's only at something like this move, when I played Nh4, that my opponent really had an advantage, and even then that was quite slight. So after taking and retaking, and then my opponent dropping his knight back to d7, where are we? Yep, that's a mistake there. So I misplayed this there. I should have actually played Nf3. Why Nf3? Well, I think it deals with the bishop there, and if it doesn't deal with the bishop, let's say I play this move instead, it attacks that bishop. If that bishop would like to drop back, I've got to take on d6. So this kind of a situation looks fairly favourable for me. Alternatively, I can still deal with that bishop early, and then we wouldn't have the bishop pair, but I'd have one bishop versus 2 knights, and that could be fairly favourable. So it looks like the suggested move after Nf5 is actually King h7. So King h7. Now I'm not really seeing the main advantage, but let's skip ahead a bit. Perhaps the idea was to sacrifice pieces on the h6 square, dealing with those pawns, getting my own queen up to the h5 square, for example. Looks like the next suggested move was rook d1, and I can't see a rook lift anywhere, but I think taking that bishop would also be pretty reasonable if you wanted to play a move like that. But yeah. Okay, well, look, a little bit of personalized training, most of it related to isolated pawns this time. We also have quite a few related to passed pawns, and really being able to take advantage of that. That's something that I could do better on, especially towards the end of the game when we get to a situation like this. It's quite clear who the winner should be. I've got 2 pieces and 2 rooks versus my opponent's 2 pieces and 2 rooks. However, I have a passed pawn. And after taking on e5, it really just gets worse from my opponent here. There was no way to actually defend that second piece, and so shortly after, 2 rooks and a bishop versus 2 main pieces and 2 castles, rooks rather. So not ideal. Even with this pin of the piece on e3, that knight on e3 to my king, not so worried because I had that pre-protected with my rook on e1. So okay, overall not too bad a game, but certainly some improvements to be made. I would really like to be able to take advantage of a situation like this. rather than just throwing it away because of a lack of time. That time situation was self-inflicted. Really need to accelerate how quickly I move. Even if I'm not fully aware of the technical outcomes on the board, you get a sense of how you're playing and what your opponent's thinking as you go, and if I can play according to those instincts, I'll probably do better in the long run because I'll save so much time. So that will be the future goal, the future lesson for me. Anyway guys, hopefully you enjoyed that video. I hope you got something out of it as well for your own chess. If you did like it, please leave the video a like. If you didn't like it, that's okay. Please let me know what I could do to improve in the comments, and I will do that for you. Alright guys, I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.